Hey there, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading, wanting to thank you for stopping by to watch this interview and also make it clear to you that this is not a paid for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies have been identified as opportunities for investment that could provide a an above average return on our investment. This is our opportunity to get to know management, to understand the vision for the company, the strategy they plan to implement, and execute to achieve that vision for the company. So if you learn anything here today and you enjoy the interview, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with a follow-up with Jericho Energy Ventures, Brian Williamson, CEO. Really interesting time to do a follow-up because we had some pretty significant news in the hydrogen space in the last couple of days, and Brian was gracious enough to agree to come on and give us kind of an update and paint the picture for us as to why it was such a meaningful event. And then maybe we could talk about just the energy space, renewable energy space, hydrogen space, and what you guys have going on with Jericho in particular. Any updates you might have there. Brian, thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So it's interesting, right? So people, when we talked maybe 5-6 months ago, Tim, one of the things that you heard me talk about was the price of hydrogen. And clean hydrogen, green hydrogen is expensive. It was expensive. It is expensive. And, when you compare it to your traditional fuel sources, it just is expensive. And that's a reflection on how great of a job we've done in creating cheap energy here in the US and North America more broadly. And it gives us an appreciation for how good we are at it, right? Because hydrogen was 3x what your more expensive, still cheap fossil fuels were costing. But with the most recent legislation that the US government just passed, they took a full swing at bringing green hydrogen into cost parity in most cases with your traditional energy, which is a huge deal for the industry, because you're jumpstarting, the economic side of it. So there's a ton of people that want to explore this energy transition and be a part of transitioning their company because they realize that 2030 seems far away, but when you run a business, it's not that far away because you got to transition the whole business, not just small increments, and you got to start somewhere. And so the challenge typically was, we want to do this, but we're not really looking to give up a significant amount of our profitability in doing it, right? We still run a business here. We still have shareholders that we're accountable to. And now what's happened is you've basically told those same folks, get out there and lead because we're giving you the cheap green hydrogen you need to make it happen. So, for us, right, in our boiler, our hydrogen boiler, where we believe that owning the customer is the key to owning the hydrogen value chain, it all of a sudden makes the boiler's economics so much different, right? I mean, I am taking $3 off the cost of every kilogram of hydrogen. Such a big deal from that perspective. And so we think it's just going to have an enormous impact, in terms of people's interest domestically in the US to try and transition in a much more rapid fashion, because they have every incentive to do it now, right now. And if they're, if they're fortunate enough and they're in a region that is selected for one of the hubs, not only will they have access to the tax credit, they're going to actually have access to grant funding from the US government that could potentially also be an additive benefit to their project. So you have all of the momentum that we were looking for as part of this energy transition. And, we talked about this last time. We don't believe energy transition means that it's all or nothing. It's going to be a long, slow process. Traditional energy sources aren't going away. We need every last drop of oil and gas we make. Clearly, you can tell by the price. So we think that, the transition has just got a huge momentum swing now, but still, we see traditional energy being a part of the future for our kids' time, our lifetime and our kids' lifetime.
Yeah, so let's just to back up real quick in case anybody isn't familiar with the story, and you can go back and look at the other interview that was much more in-depth interview where we basically went through the whole history. But Jericho was an oil and gas company that transitioned from an oil and gas company, bought hydrogen technology company out of California that was kind of early, but you've moved that along. You've got a working prototype in California. And you were, I think the last time we spoke, you were talking to maybe 5 different industries, big industries that were either in the process of wanting to try a boiler or, somewhere along those discussions were happening, right? And then we talked about the different types of hydrogen, the gray, the blue, the green, and what your vision is for. You want to be not just the boiler, but you want to be into every aspect of storage, transportation, right?
That's correct.
Along the whole chain.
And we are working on all of those things. The focus for us has been this year bringing hydrogen, bringing hydrogen technology forward, right? So we now have filed Gen 2 patents on all of the tech. We now have, I believe it's 10 different site studies underway for installing our boiler. So I wish I could sit here and say to you, it was as simple as they call, they order, and we go. But you're dealing with a new medium in hydrogen, right? So everybody has the same questions. Am I going to blow up their facility? Is it going to impact the community, right? And it's real. And so we have spent a considerable amount of time doing site studies, doing feasibility studies for each customer, because we want them to be comfortable at the business level, the management level, the ops level, and the engineering level. So it's a hand in glove process with them. We're not going anywhere, so we want them to be folks who are early adopters, and not just for that site, but for 15, 20, 30 sites that they have that can use our boiler, because ultimately in using our boiler, we end up being the folks who work with them to select all the other pieces of the hydrogen value chain. So going slower than I would like, but going great in terms of the quality of the customers and the teams and the organizations we're working with. Remember, hydrogen is writing its own regs. There aren't regs in a lot of places for how you store hydrogen, how you transport hydrogen, how you use a zero emission hydrogen fueled boiler system. So you are breaking new ground just about every place you go. And so from my perspective, we've actually had to slow down the inbound inquiries to make sure that we focus on the folks that are first, focus on the folks who came to us first, and making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that their studies are perfect, so that as their boards consider it, they have all the information they need to make it work. So really been exciting from that perspective for us. I know it doesn't create a lot of great news in the market, a lot of great environment, but couldn't be happier with the adoption rate and the scale and the size of the companies that have undertaken to do studies on our system and its ability to impact change in their organization. So it's been a great first 6 months of the year, 7 months of the year for us.
So, that's the first 6 months, but now that you've got this announcement for this, basically cost reduction, right? I have to assume that that's probably going to, maybe kicking in the afterburners a little bit.
So in every case now where we have a domestic site, Tim, we are having to go back and redo the work because it's all changes, right? Because before we had to, price it with what the hydrogen was going to cost. But now all of a sudden we get to price it with the tax credits built in. So pretty exciting opportunity. It's not often you get to go back and get a grant or a tax credit that goes and helps your proposal. So that'll be a real interesting process for us to go through now and bring back those proposals to all of those folks who are interested. And in every case,
go ahead.
They all see the credit and they all see the opportunity to really sort of push forward on the full spectrum green hydrogen.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the piece of the PTC is the most consequential piece of legislation. Adoption of clean hydrogen represents historic investment in the U.S. clean energy. A maximum of $3, was that kilogram? PTC immediately put clean hydrogen in cost parity with the carbon emitting fuels like coal, natural gas. So essentially, what are we looking at? A new study of research transparency. We got global green hydrogen market will expand from 2.14 billion in 2021 to 135.73 billion by 2031. That's pretty significant growth.
It's huge. It's huge.
Okay, and then so would you say that it had, so cost was one, the other is, and I hear this a lot, the safety aspect, that blowing up in transport and whatever, right? I mean, I do hear that a lot. Would you say that's the number two? I guess
I would actually say safety is the first.
Is the first
ahead of cost, because we focus on industrial customers and they're looking at it saying, my plant, my workers, my neighbors, the residents that live nearby. And the Hindenburg's 100 years old, but for whatever reason, that is the visual people have. And it's fascinating because people forget that we have very, very large industrial gas companies that have been delivering hydrogen in the area, in every one of these areas, for years and years and years, but nobody took notice of it because nobody talked about it. They were just the industrial gas guys. So there's just an education process that has to happen, and it's great because once they're educated, they realize that it's very safe, that it's all of the things that they're concerned about have been taken into consideration in the storage design, in the transport design, in the utilization design in our system. All of those are really good questions and things that have been thought about and just need to be educated. The users, the consumers, the constituents, and the local folks. And so we're trying to make sure that we don't leave anybody out, so everybody gets the information they need to understand how safe hydrogen is to work with.
But of all the renewable energies, I've also heard it said that hydrogen is the cleanest, right? Is that accurate as well?
So if you think about hydrogen, it gives you what we don't have right now, which is the ability to transport and store clean energy, right? So California has a ton of solar and wind. Other parts of the world, Texas, a ton of solar and wind, but in other parts of the country, we just don't have that. And so now with with hydrogen, you can actually produce the hydrogen with the renewables, and now you can transport it, all over the country, right? So now you have the ability to time ship renewables, and that's what makes hydrogen so interesting from an energy perspective.
Okay, so I want to pull up real quick. I want to pull up your investor deck because, and I don't know if I've got the most recent one. I think
they just put one up for August.
Just put one up in August. Okay.
Yeah, Adam, you got that up there? I see Adam still on.
Adam, you don't happen to have that real handy, do you?
Yeah, I'm going to send it your way right now.
Okay, perfect. So the last time we met, you had just, I think, invested in a hydrogen tech company, right? I think you had acquired one, and then you had invested like a 50% stake maybe in another one. Is that?
So we've made an investment in Q1 in a hydrogen production company. So in Q1 we invested in a company that makes hydrogen, high pressure hydrogen.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the idea there is that if you think about hydrogen, one of the challenges is that in the green ammonia in that world, you have to, where hydrogen is used to the tune of 3/4 of the industry right now, you have to pressurize it. And these folks at Supercritical have developed the technology for delivering high pressure hydrogen. So you cut out all of the compression requirements that are needed for that process, which is,
Okay.
$1 to $2 of cost elimination, which is enormous in the hydrogen value chain.
Okay. So let me see if I can pull up this the deck here real quick and get this to fit.
Yeah, that's tough.
There we go. Oh, come on. Okay. Now let's see. I'm trying to see where the minority stake investments in disruptive. So just going off of the transition platform, we've got harvesting oil and gas assets, which you still have, right?
Absolutely.
And doing just fine there with
It's been our best year in 10 years, Tim.
with oil sitting around about $90 a barrel. You're doing okay, right?
Doing okay there.
You're
It's
doing
been great.
okay.
It's been
Okay.
great. Yeah.
And then own and operate low carbon hydrogen technologies, which we're talking about the boilers, and then minority stake and disruptive early stage. So there was I think one of the companies that we had talked about was how you make that green hydrogen,
Which is the supercritical. So there's two of them. There's one called H2U, which is focused on low cost electrolyzer production, and then there's supercritical, which is focused on the high compression hydrogen production.
Okay. And then, I mean, what are you most excited about? I mean, this is a pretty big deal. This announcement. Did you anticipate this at all? This announcement that
No, came out of nowhere. I mean, we didn't have any inclination. We had heard rumblings that they were trying to rework the deal. But I think it really sort of is going to be the shot in the arm the industry needed in advance of the hubs. Because you think about it, right? You cut the cost by $3, and now you're going to go give out $10+ billion in grants. If you think about what happened, solar and wind were not cost competitive without grants back in 2005, 6, 7, and 8. And here we sit in 2022, the cheapest source of energy we have. Right, so you can see how once you get these things started, the brain power and the sheer market gyration, market forces really do an amazing job of transitioning in that segment and getting that moving. I mean, it happened in wind and solar. We think it's going to happen in hydrogen. We absolutely think these are the two things that are going to key off of it, because the reality is that it'll be a growing piece of the energy complex, because we don't choose to drill oil and gas wells 10 and 20,000 feet in the ground. We're forced to drill them because that's where the new discoveries are. So that tells you something, right? It tells you that there's no more oil at 1,000 and 2 and 3 and 10,000 feet, because that's where we got to go to get it. And so the reality is we have to transition. And yes, we will find new fossil fuel discoveries, but they're deeper, they're further, they're riskier, and they're harder and harder to get them to the user base. So, the opportunity to use what we have to transition right now, and now these two things coming back to back, the cost reduction and then turned around by the fact that you're going to get these hubs announced, makes for an enormous opportunity to really put the United States in a leadership position.
So pretty smart move. What was it, 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago, right?
It's about a year and a half we got into this.
About a year and a half.
Q1 of 2021. We spent a year studying it, looking at all the places we wanted to play. Got into the space in Q1 of 2021 and have been working on our technology and building out our platform, which is getting there. I mean, we are doing it, but we are being very diligent and thoughtful, because we're not looking to catch a falling sword, and we're not looking to overpay for things that we think aren't going to have the value proposition that is going to be there in the end. So from our perspective, it takes a lot of deal flow, it takes a lot of work. And what served us really well in the hydrogen space is our background, right? Understanding how energy is produced, how energy is stored, transported, delivered, and consumed really gives you the skill set to understand what can and can't work from a hydrogen perspective. Because ultimately those same things are needed, right? I mean, there's nothing different about hydrogen. It's cleaner, but it needs all those components to work. So from our perspective, we love where we're positioned. We love who we're doing studies for right now. Real excited about our Australian hub. I mean, I don't think that people understand what that's going to look like, right? So we have partnered with a group called Line Hydrogen in Australia. And just so people understand, the decarbonization impact of one of our boilers is greater than 2,500 cars, okay? 2,500 cars. So we are looking at taking green hydrogen in our boiler in Australia, and essentially this time next year, we will have decarbonized the entire island of Tasmania to the tune of the equivalent of, as many people park in that the new Las Vegas stadium. I mean, you're looking at massive decarbonization right where people live and work every day. And, what's beautiful about it is you have a green hydrogen source right there. And eventually over time, you even have a pipeline system that can support hydrogen transportation because it's poly. So now you have a scenario where you have end users, right? You have mining operations there. You have processing facilities, industrial customers, you have distilleries there. All of these folks are now talking to us. We announced that. We can't even set up the calls before Labor Day with the amount of people that called about how do I get involved? What do I have to do? What's available to me? Am I too late?
Oh, that phone's going to start ringing a lot more.
So,
I'm telling you.
So I mean, we're pretty excited about it. I mean, I definitely get it that it's in Australia, but Australia's moving fast. Like they have a regulatory environment and administration that really wants to see this happen. And look, I mean, I'm hoping that we see the same thing now that we have this new shot in the arm here domestically. So I mean, we're guns a-blazing on all parts of the world right now, Tim. So we're pretty excited about where these things are going.
No, look, what's interesting because look, I do own the shares, and I'll just tell everybody that up front. And I think the Jericho story is a very compelling story. I thought it was a really compelling story when I spoke with Adam and said, hey, do you guys still have oil assets? That was when, the Russia-Ukraine thing happened. And he's like, yeah, of course, Oklahoma with 50,000 acres, whatever. I'm like, are you guys pumping any oil? Yeah. And it's not hedged. And I'm like, no. It's not hedged.
Yeah.
And I really thought that at some point, the market was going to pick up on that because the stock really hadn't participated with any of the oil and gas names, right?
That's right.
Now here we are. We got a hydrogen news event that I think is significant. And I know there's a lot of people talking about a lot of different hydrogen names. And here's Jericho. I mean, we're not really doing anything today, right? So when does the market resonate and see that these two industries that you happen to be in are pretty hot industries? And this isn't like you just jumped into this, you're not one of those you didn't just jump into this like last week, hey, we're getting into hydrogen. You've been studying this and involved in it so you studied it for a year and you've been in it for a year and a half. So that's 2.5 years, right? What is Wall Street missing, Brian?
I think that, look, I mean, people heard the word hydrogen in Q1 of 2021, and people jumped in with both feet and both arms. They didn't listen. A lot of the companies that came public said, look, we're pre-revenue, we're working on the tech, we think we have great tech, but we're not commercial yet. But nobody heard that. And frankly, people aren't patient. And so they bid them up, and they bid them up public, private, and things got way, way overvalued. And then they didn't produce the revenue, and people are sitting here saying, how's that happen? It's like, well, they told you they were pre-revenue, but nobody was listening because they heard hydrogen, they heard about the hubs, they heard this is going to be the way to go. It just never happens as fast as people want. So the reality is that, unfortunately, you get to this scenario where people were disappointed it wasn't coming fast enough, and they bailed, right? And so you saw all the hydrogen stocks trading at absolute lows, as we went through 2022 so far this year. Interestingly enough, you've seen, the more well-known hydrogen names now perk up since the announcement, whether it's Plug, Ballard, Bloom, the household names have really sort of had a resurgence and are trading, as if people are believing in it now that it's going to be real. We haven't seen that same pop yet. I don't think people realize the quality of the portfolio and what the value of owning the customer means in that world. And I think that if you look at the other side of it and you say, look, we haven't gotten rid of any of our legacy assets. So, we haven't gotten any market credit for our oil and gas performance either. So we haven't gotten either yet. So, we haven't seen the love yet, but the reality is we love what we're doing. So that's all we can control, Tim. We just keep doing what we're doing.
So let's talk about the health of Jericho, right? I mean, how many shares do we have outstanding, fully diluted? Do you know off the top of your head?
It's roughly about 250 million.
Okay, 250 million. Has there been any insider participation in the open markets recently?
Not in the recent times.
Okay.
Not in recent times.
Okay. Do you think maybe that might be a possibility? I mean, I'm just thinking.
Well, we're
I know you probably can't say that.
Yeah, we're within the window where we can't do that right now.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the chart of the stock, right, and it's kind of actually got this.
It's trying to give me indigestion, huh?
Well, it's got this interesting kind of cup with handle formation. If anybody's an Investor Business Daily person, this has actually kind of got an interesting cup with handle formation on a daily, but it's kind of been just hanging out here in this area of 30 cents or between 20s, what is that, 23 cents and 35 cents, right?
Yep.
But I mean, the oil and gas assets are they cash flow positive now? Absolutely. Okay, so that helps with pretty much everything, right? Because the hydrogen wasn't generating anything.
No.
Right?
Hydrogen, we are getting paid for our engineering studies. So let's not forget that. We do get paid for those.
Okay.
But that does not pay for the hydrogen business even close. But the oil and gas assets are doing really well. So yeah.
Okay.
That's been a real nice gift.
And I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. Do you? Do you see oil and gas prices? As long as this Russia-Ukraine thing is happening, and if we don't put up another refinery in the U.S., which I don't think anybody would do, because why would they? They're like demonized. They're the devil. I mean, why would the devil want to spend that money to build another refinery?
52 years since we built a refinery. So I don't see today being the day we change that. The reality of it is that as more fuel efficient as our cars have gotten, as many as EVs are on the road, our consumption as a global community just goes up every day. So there's a lot of historical trends that would suggest that it's harder to drill. Consumption is up. I think you have all of the right things for a higher sustained oil price, but we seem to not have a lot of forward-looking momentum in the oil markets, because you have an investor community right now that isn't really oil and gas focused. I mean, most of your institutional investors, your biggest pools of capital, have gotten out of oil and gas. Your endowments out of oil and gas, not all of them, but a lot of them. Your pensions out of oil and gas. So you're just seeing a lot of the bigger pools of capital moving away from traditional energy.
Right. So I don't know. I just, for some reason, I think that Jericho is like one of the best hidden gems uh, out there right now. I mean, I mean, I look at what's the risk reward, right? So you buy the stock here at, I don't know, 31 cents or 25 cents, whatever. So if you go bankrupt, you're looking at losing 25 cents a share, right? What's the upside potential? I mean, you're in hydrogen space, which just got a big kick in the butt, as far as I'm concerned, to, a good kick in the butt, right? And then you've got oil and gas assets that are now actually making some, positive cash flow for the company. So those are, I would view those as two very positive things, right? And if I go back on the stock, on the chart, I mean, your all-time high was right around $1, right around $1 a share. You're at 25 cents, goes back to $1. I don't know. That's 3-to-1 risk reward ratio right there.
I like
Not
that.
bad,
No,
right?
I agree. And look, I mean, we like what we're doing. Like I said at the beginning, we can't control, the market and the market sentiment. We can control the things we do at the corporate level. And we think eventually the market will realize the quality of the assets we have and the forward trajectory that we're creating for our organization.
You mentioned you still maintain those oil assets, right? Is there, I mean, this could be an environment that would be considered, I don't know.
We did drill a well. So if you remember on our last call, we did actually we announced the drilling of the Lazarus, and we will announce the production results of the Lazarus in the not too distant future. I would say that, we are struggling with services. I mean, energy services are weak, and they have definitely delayed us because we will not get the completion crew until the end of this month on it. But that's just the marketplace. I mean, there's just no bodies. The service side of the business is so short on labor right now.
Okay.
And then, it's to be expected, right? You've had 8 years of low oil prices. People went and got other jobs. They couldn't hang around forever. And people are hesitant to bring on too many people, or people are hesitant to jump in because, they're worried that they'll lose their job again when prices go down. So it just has created a shortage of services. So we will look to announce the results of the Lazarus sometime in, the end of Q3.
In the end of Q3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when's the last time you guys reported? Or do you have
our Q2 filing should be coming out any day now.
Okay. So that should be something to keep an eye on. I think that there might be.
Yep. I would say keep an eye out for those.
To.
Take a look at the oil and gas asset information that's in there, and you'll see the impact of, average price of $100 last quarter.
Okay.
So,
anything else that is kind of like you're just really dying to tell us?
I would say that we are very excited with what we're doing as we close out the last 4 months, 4.5 months of 2022. And we think that Jericho only gets stronger and better, each day. And we look forward to this now shot in the arm for the hydrogen industry as being the stepping stone for us returning to that price.
I just reflect back to the first time I met you, right? And listen, you've always been a sharp guy, but I remember the first conversation we ever had, and I actually felt for you because you were going through a really, really rough time. And I think the thing that you had said to me is you felt like a leper because nobody wanted to talk to you guys, right? And I really did feel it for you. And I thought, man, this guy's got a hard job to get up and go to every single day, right? When the market is just kicking you every day. And you just seem a whole lot different. You seem a lot more at ease now.
I would feel more at ease if we saw the market react to what we're doing in the way we think it deserves. But you know what? We got to keep doing what we're doing, and eventually people will pick up on it in droves. And next thing you know, we'll be having this discussion, and your chart will have us way up at the top end again.
Yeah, so. The other thing that what I love about companies is the leadership. And I like, one of the things that stuck out to me about Jericho is when things got really rough, everybody came together as a team and took the lumps as a team, not as a CEO, CFO making all the decisions, right?
Yeah, I mean, our team, we have an incredible team, and thank you for saying that, because all of the folks on our team were there when oil was negative $32. And every single person, all the way down to the assistants and the field people, all agreed that we would take a haircut across the board as opposed to letting people go. So it really speaks to, one of the things that sometimes is lost in today's world is the team, the quality of the people on the team, and how much they're willing to do to see the company be successful. Just outstanding individuals from everybody in our field team to our science teams to our finance teams and our accounting, our land team, just great people. So, it takes a team to make a company work, and we have an awesome team.
Yeah. So, for me, it's things like that it's hearing stories like that as an investor, these are the kind of companies that you want to pull for, that you want to help achieve that success, right? Because to me, it's a humbling story, but it is an awesome one. It's an inspiring one. And you're right. I don't think, a lot of our corporations do think like that anymore, right? It's all about the bottom line, and it could have been a decision that was made by you and the CFO, and that's it, right? You just chop heads, but that's not what you did. And I think that speaks volumes, and that's somebody that you want to cheer for. That's somebody I always like the underdogs. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, so what's that tell you? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I don't think of us as an underdog. I just think of us as a hidden gem, because I think of the talent on the team, right? If you look at the talent on the team and the work ethic on the team, I mean, you have Adam on the call with us. Adam's been our IR guy now since we started, right? When we did the Australian press release, Adam stayed up all night working with the Australian side to make sure that it was right. Didn't matter to him, and he was right there with the market the next day. Our field guys will stay out in the field all night if that's what it takes to keep the assets running. That's the quality of the team we have. And it's not just the work ethic, it's the experience, the education that makes them so valuable. I mean, they're just an outstanding team. And you know what? We think of it as, this is what we're here to do, and this is what we are going to do. And we are going to see this through. We're going to make Jericho successful, right? And so, we don't see it as anything but that. We will be successful.
See, I love that. I love that attitude, Brian. I mean, I thought you were a sharp guy from the very moment I met you. I mean, it just happened to be in a really bad industry at the time. I mean, I thought, man, what a smart guy, what a sharp guy. But in the hydrogen, I like the fact that you were going there. It was just that you had just purchased them. And I'm thinking, man, there's going to be a lot of cash burn between now and when they have something that's viable, right?
That's right. That's well said, Tim. That's exactly right. I mean, it's taken more energy, more time, but we like where we are now. We like where we're going with it. And we love who our first set of customers are looking like, shaping up to be there.
When so speaking of the five, how many industries were there there were five?
So when we originally talked, we had engineering studies going at 5 different industries. We now have them in 9 different industries and multiple companies in each industry now.
Okay. So we went into some of what the industries are. We didn't go into naming any names. It just is what it is, but they're big industries.
All of them are big. And I would say that for us as a technology company on the hydrogen side, we are amazed every day at the applications for steam, whether it's cars and painting, manufacturing of tires, dairy, food, beer, chemicals, paper, right? All of these are industries that, frankly, we just didn't know how steam was used and to the extent it was used. And I haven't even touched on the biggest one yet, which is heating and hot water. Right? I mean, so, heating and hot water is, a $10 billion industry in and of itself. All steam, all the commercial side is steam. Dean and Janet, Dean is the chief commercial officer, Janet is the president of AWT. They did a presentation at the, what is that called? It's a conference for commercial industrial facilities management. I forget exactly the name of it. The conference had their webinar had over 400 attendees. I mean, it's an amazing attendance. We're Jericho, 400 people from around the world listened in from different companies to hear how we could change their steam process from a coal-based, diesel-based, natural gas-based system to a hydrogen clean fuel system. And it's been a huge win for us in terms of inbound influx of folks that we're talking to about changing them over.
Listen, we may be early on this one, and that's okay. I don't mind being early. I'd much rather be early than late. I hate being late because then I'm chasing, right? This is the opportunity, this is, in my view, this is almost like a no stress kind of deal, right? I mean, I think the risk reward is extremely favorable. By the way, now that I've pulled this longer chart up, this over here, this has actually got a reverse head and shoulders pattern also, which is another formation that is very interesting. So it's a bullish formation. So it'll be interesting to see if this holds in this area. That would be fine for me if it just went sideways and built a nice wide base, because the bigger the base is, I call it a launching pad, right? So just build a bigger launching pad. That's fine. I think this is a really great story. If you don't have it, you don't own it, and you don't want to own it, at least put it on your radar, is what I suggest, right? And keep an eye on what's happening with the company. You can go to the investors page on their website and sign up for email alerts, right? Get them sent directly to your email. I think this hydrogen thing is big. And I want to thank you, Brian, for coming on. The ticker symbol on this is JROOF, as in Frank. And Adam is fantastic in their IR department. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of Adam, and he is very prompt to get back to you as soon as possible. But let's do this again, Brian, when maybe in a couple of months, when this kind of all sinks in and we see actually what the ramifications are going to be.
Would look forward to it.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for your time today.
All right, thanks, Adam. Hold on one second. I'm going to shut this off. Hey there, all you stock market junkies. Thanks for tuning in for another CEO interview here at Alpha Wolf Trading. Today we had Jericho Energy Ventures CEO Brain Williamson, ticker symbol JROOF. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, do us a favor, give us a like. Why not give us a share? And while you're at it, how about giving us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.